Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another rousing rendition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, back once again for some more wrestling talk. This is going to be a sparse episode on the news and results, heavy on the Ask Juice. We've just kind of hit a point where there's not much set in stone, although we're getting there with SummerSlam. We do have Blood and Guts next week, so that'll be a fun event to recap next week. But not much else going on in the world of pro wrestling since the last time I spoke on this microphone. But we will get to it. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow my Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. And you can rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Please rate and review it. If you could give it 5 stars, that would be fantastic. Feedback would be greatly appreciated. Google Podcasts, you can also find this show, and then juicysteen.podbean.com, another place you can find this great show. But yeah, not too crazy in the world of pro wrestling. So we will touch on Raw, of course, some SmackDown from last week, and then some AEW stuff as we go, like I said, into Blood and Guts. And then, we'll do a pretty sizable selection of Ask Juice, where I'll try to tie in one of the more recent things that happened, unfortunately, into the segment. Although it kind of is there, kind of isn't there. We'll get there. But yeah, Raw, SmackDown, not too much going on. SmackDown had a really fun Grayson Waller Edge match. That Grayson Waller lost. Edge made it clear that he did swim. He did not sink. So it seems like Grayson Waller has a bright future, at least in the eyes of Edge. And I would say in regards to a lot of the up and ups in WWE, considering he has had a little bit of a sputter with the Grayson Waller show and the stuff on the Grayson Waller effect, but I love his mic work. I thought he killed it at Money in the Bank with John Cena, and now he has a huge thing with Edge. It seems like Grayson Waller is what they wanted Austin Theory to be, but Grayson Waller is really, really proving himself as the weeks progress. So, and this is what I think I had speculated on maybe last week. I'm not sure, but I do believe that the final 4 of the 2024 Royal Rumble at this moment should be Grayson Waller, Gunther, L.A. Knight, and Randy Orton. Speaking of L.A. Knight, a plethora of clips throughout the week have been surfacing of L.A. Knight in an Aldi's commercial, various other commercials, during a Performance Center workout with Triple H in 2014. As a plant at SummerSlam. LA Knight's been around for a while. He's done a lot of stuff and has really paid so many dues to get where he is today. So shout out to LA Knight for the hard work he has put in over the course of the last 20 to 25 years. So SmackDown also had a 45-minute segment with the Bloodline. It's pretty much to be expected these days that you're going to get a pretty lengthy Bloodline story or segment, rather. And this one was no different. I really enjoyed what happened. I enjoyed the crying, as it were, from Roman, and the trial of the tribal chief, and it was at Madison Square Garden, so the stage was pretty large, and Roman had shoot tears. He was really upset with how everything was unfolding, However, in true WWE fashion, this faction still alive and well, at least in Roman's eyes, because he did low blow Jey Uso. Now, it were to seem that we will get Jey Uso and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam for the undisputed WWE title, but still unconfirmed. We don't really have an idea of an official match yet. So when we get there, we will get there. As it pertains to SmackDown, other than that, not much else really caught my attention. We're still trying to see what type of matches are going to be set forth. Um, Gunther seems to be facing Drew McIntyre. We'll probably get Cody and Brock in the quote rubber match, but no stipulation yet. I still think Texas Bull Rope could be the move, although they won't be wrestling in Texas. It's clear that it could be a Detroit Bull Rope match. So I'm looking forward to seeing what exactly they come through with. For that, seems like we might get Bianca, Asuka, Charlotte, and a triple threat at SummerSlam. It looks like we're gonna get Finn and Seth again. But now let's go back to the Raw of it all, and Logan Paul more than likely will go against Ricochet at SummerSlam, which would be crazy if you know every time every time Logan Paul's been in the WWE PLE, he's really proven himself worthy of being a pro wrestler and not just a part timer. And in fact, at Royal Rumble, Logan Paul and Ricochet had the crazy, each on each other's side of the ring, jumping off the top rope spot, which obviously went viral. That's really Logan Paul's bread and butter is the viral moment, as he did in Saudi with Roman. But after that, him and Ricochet at Money in the Bank tried as all hell to get that crazy Spanish fly through the tables, and it didn't work. And when it didn't work, they had to almost pivot to setting up a backstage interaction, and then Logan Paul then furthering that interaction by going on his Impulsive podcast. Not as successful as the Juice Box, I might add. And went along and discussed how the spot was botched, and Ricochet was really, trying to push forward for the move happening. And I like that animosity that Logan Paul brought because it's real, you know? He probably wasn't happy that the spot didn't go well, and he had no problem throwing Ricochet under the bus, all knowing that everybody's going to listen to this and it's going to cause a stir. Did it a face to face? Ricochet said he didn't want a match. Paul's like, no, let's do this thing. Ricochet did the flip out of the ring and landing right in front of Logan for a stare down. Looks like we're gonna get this match at SummerSlam, and that should tear the house down for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, looks like Drew versus Gunther. I don't know what Matt Riddle's gonna do. Trish and Becky are probably gonna have a match. Um, And I guess maybe I missed this, but Cody did mention though that the rubber match with him and Lesnar, that the whoever would win that match would be quote next in line for a title shot. So, are we gonna get Cody Seth at Payback in September? Am I gonna see that live? I would love it, but we will see. Miz and Ciampa might have a match, maybe not. Doesn't seem like it's too set in stone. And then, of course, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey will probably have a match at SummerSlam as well. So, let's get into the AEW of it all. as I said, this is going to be a quicker episode, and pretty much every week I say that, and then it ends up being a long episode. Now, if it is a longer episode this week, it's purely because I'm diving into the Ask Juice portion for an elongated time, which I really enjoy the Ask Juice portion. I like kind of gauging what other people are talking about and throwing my own spin, my own opinions in the realm there, in the ring, if you will. But let's talk AEW before we get into that. Commander and Chris Jericho was a fun opener. Um, and I enjoy that Chris Jericho got the win. He got the Lion Tamer on Commander. Don Callis had another great interaction with Jericho. I don't know what the future holds between those two, but I got a feeling we got some interesting storytelling going forward with Don Callis and Chris Jericho. Let's just say that. Jack Perry hanging out in his SUV. Hook kind of came through. Jack Perry said the child locks were on. Little nuances. I really like that. I think they're going to have a match down the line, of course. We'll see what that really will be. Don Callis, of course, kept promoting the fifth member of the Blackpool Combat Club later in the night, which did main event the show. And a surprise to me, by way of Swerve Strickland and the Mogul Embassy, they helped Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia with the victory in the semifinals of the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament to advance to the final. And I do believe we'll see Darby and Swerve potentially here soon, which would be another great match. And also, let me just say, we had an incredible backstage promo segment with MJF and Adam Cole. Now, this is probably the best part of AEW right now. Adam Cole took MJF to the limit in the World Title Eliminator. He took him to a draw, and then after the fact, they became partners for this tag eliminator tournament, this blind eliminator tournament, which basically is like Battle Bowl. You get a random partner who you probably don't like, and you end up having to face random teams compiled the same way. See what happens, and I think the winners get a shot at the tag titles, which I believe FTR currently holds. At least for now, because they face Juice Robinson and Jay White this Saturday on Collision, 2 out of 3 falls. We got 3 straight hours of live AEW this Saturday night, which should be riveting stuff, to say the least. But Adam Cole and MJF were at the bar. MJF wanted to split 4 girls with Adam Cole. Adam Cole, of course, being loyal to Britt Baker. Shout out Britt Baker, former Chair Shot reality host. And also on the cover of the Penn Stater this month. Awesome to see her on the cover of that magazine publication. But yeah, Adam Cole devotes his time to Britt. Says, go ahead, MJF, you do your thing. MJF says, that's 4 more for Daddy. And they went away. And then they were playing Fight Forever, which I thought was another great touch. He didn't want to play video games with Adam Cole, but Adam Cole kind of got into his head. This will help. This is what we're going to do. We're going to become friends. And they kind of laid it out where Adam Cole said, hey, I was going to turn my back on you. And MJF said, hey, I was going to turn my back on you. Somehow they became closer through that information, although we all know one of these guys is going to turn on the other, probably MJF, right when it comes time for Adam Cole to challenge again for the title. But the segment was fantastic, and I really enjoyed at the end, they did beat FTR for the AEW tag titles in the AEW Fight Forever game, which was pretty cool. And I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the nuance of those 2 guys and what they're doing. So I don't know what's really next. I'm sure they're going to do a few more segments, but they get the semifinal match victory against Big Bill and Brian Cage. So now Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara will take on Better Than You, Bay. Um, I think at Collision. So, or if they win next week, then they will go at Collision for the titles. Yeah, so that's been great. I've really been enjoying the MJF Cole stuff. Now, some people will critique it, saying, Adam Cole, going for the title, but should the world title be in a comedy skit? And I say, I think the world title should be in as important of a program as it can be, regardless of how serious they take it, because it is a serious, you know, program at the end of the day. Like, I think Adam Cole will eventually get another shot, at the title, and they might break up, and I really think it's going to come to fruition. So the people that don't have any patience, thinking that this is just, it's a comedy skit, it's a waste of the world title spot. I don't agree with that at all, and I do think there's a lot more meat on this bone. Semifinals of the Owen Hart Foundation. We had Ruby Soho win. So now she's in the finals this Saturday against either Athena or Willow Nightingale. So Ruby again is in the finals of the Owen Hart tournament. In the other semifinal now, or in the other final, we have Ricky Starks versus CM Punk this Saturday on Collision. I can't wait for that match. CM Punk defeated Samoa Joe, I'd be remiss to say, on Collision last week. First time in 18 years those two wrestled each other, and I thought it was a fantastic throwback to the past. All the usual spots happened, and then after Punk gets the win, Joe choked him out. Loved it. And then probably the more interesting little wrestling note of Dynamite on this past Wednesday was Nick Wayne versus Swerve Strickland. Now, Nick Wayne been really, really hyped up by AEW. I compared it to an MLB team calling up their hottest young prospect. His father, Buddy Wayne, who passed away in 2017, who trained Nick, and Nick Wayne's also the grandson of Moondog Ed Moretti. He just turned 18, but he's been wrestling for quite a long time. I swear he's been 17 for 3 or 4 years now. But him and Swerve had a great match, what the kids these days would call a banger, and I really enjoyed it. Wayne lost, of course. I don't really think Wayne needed a win here. And Swerve got the momentum as he hurt Darby and Orange Cassidy's chances at the Blind Eliminator Tag Tournament, and then won this match to cut short Nick Wayne's debut for AEW. And apparently Nick Wayne is all elite, so congratulations to him. I see a lot of promise in Nick Wayne. I see a lot of Will Ospreay in Nick Wayne. So that can't be anything but good for that young man. Can't wait to see what the future holds for him. Before we get to the 5th member of BCC and the Elite, how are you going to watch AEW All In? Because unless you're at Wembley, AEW has still not said where folks at home can watch All In. Sure, I'm sure it could be on pay-per-view, could be on Fight, could be on Max. I have no idea. But the fact that they still haven't announced it yet, and it's a little over a month away, is pretty interesting. So we'll see. Maybe once we get into August, maybe they'll announce it. I have no idea. But it's fascinating that we really don't have an idea of that at all. But there also were, before we get to this main event seg on Dynamite, it was also reported that Warner Brothers, WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, and AEW have been in talks to extend the TV rights, which have been apparently going on for months, and potentially late this summer or in the fall, a deal could be reached. That's where I think is the max of it all. Maybe they're waiting for that to come to fruition to put All In on. Easy for me to say. So we'll see. But yeah, I really just am fascinated by that and not really knowing. I'm sure it'll be an easy thing to accomplish. I'm sure they'll put it on where fans can watch it. But all in and all out back to back weeks with Payback in Pittsburgh in between. Hell of an August and September beginning for the wrestling world, but we'll get there when we get there. And then we got the main event segment of Dynamite. Don Callis came down to the ring. He announced that the fifth member, although it was a blindsided shot after Kenny Omega came out to confront Don, Pac. Pac came down and looked jacked, looked like he somehow got even more shredded than before. If you recall, Pac tapped out or passed out Kenny Omega. Was it at All Out? One of the first AEW shows. So there's a long history between those two men, and I'm looking forward to seeing Pac in the Blood and Guts match. Everybody was beating him down. They were going to take Kenny's head off from the top rope. Kenny got some last words before they did him in. He said, "Look at the screen." Cut to the screen, and it was Kota Ibushi being announced as the fifth member of Blood and Guts. And then the lights went out. Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks were there. Took out Takeshita, Pac, and Moxley. It's going to be something. Next week, Wednesday night, TD Garden in Boston. Man, Takeshita, Moxley, Pac. Wish Bryan Danielson could be in this match, but Wheeler Yuta, Claudio, Kenny Omega, Page, the Bucks, and Ibushi. It's going to be crazy, crazy, crazy. Of course, we do have Battle of the Belts and Collision in the Saddle Dome in Calgary. Luchasaurus and Shawn Spears. Don't know why that's happening. Like I said earlier, Bullet Club Gold, Jay White and Juice Robinson versus FTR in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the AEW World Tag Team titles, which should be great. And the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Finals for the men, CM Punk versus Absolute Ricky Starks. It should be a hell of a show next Wednesday. Should be a great show this Saturday, including Battle of the Belts. I'm looking forward to all the AEW going forward here. It is going to be a fascinating um, couple of days for AEW going into next week. But yeah, so with that all being said, I do believe I've touched on many things so far. We're going to end the news segment here with a little bit of a sad note, but we'll transition into Ask Juice that way. One of the more interesting and memorable all memorable although forgettable gimmicks in wrestling history. Mantar passed away. I believe the other day. It might have been Wednesday or Tuesday. I'm not really sure, but yeah, Mike Halleck, better known as Mantar, passed away. Um, he was only, I want to say, 55. Very sad. I As one of the more forgettable yet memorable gimmicks in WWF, 95 is Mantar, man. He had the big, like, taxidermied head. He did the weird, like, battle cry thing. Oh man, just an interesting character, to say the least. But when I always look back on Mantar, I really found him interesting, and I kind of questioned why it didn't work longer. I know that's hard for some people probably to believe, but I mean there were characters that lasted longer that had no right to and this is no fault of the uh, guys and girls that had these characters, but like Duke Drosay, he lasted a long time. Of course, Brooklyn Brawler and Knuckleball Schwartz, any of the Steve Lombardi incarnations were fun and, of course, fantastic. The Goon also comes to mind. Quang comes to mind, especially with Savio Vega returning a couple of months ago at Backlash. But Mantar was one of the ones I thought that could have actually lasted a little longer, just because it was an interesting gimmick, to say the least. So that was a sad way to transition into Ask Juice. Although here was a fun fact: did you know that Mantar and PN News, the rapper from early '90s WCW, are in fact cousins? How about that? So that was fascinating to find that out. Yeah, let's get into Ask Juice. Like I said, probably a shorter overall episode, but Ask Juice will pad out the rest of it. So if you like hearing some randomness, welcome to the Juice Box. Um, First, Ask Juice. If the Bloodline storyline is coming to a conclusion at SummerSlam, then who do you think Roman should feud with next and why? Um, so I think Jey Uso's next. I think Jey Uso is the natural fit here at SummerSlam, obviously. And let's say Jey Uso does not win this match. I still see the Bloodline sticking around with Roman and Solo and Paul. I don't think they re-add the Usos. Now, I feel like if something critical happens with Jey, maybe you'll see a Rikishi uh, type. Maybe Rikishi makes an appearance. I don't know. Someone, an elder statesman, of course, I think could come and put themselves involved with the Bloodline storyline in a more on-screen role instead of just maybe sitting on the sidelines and not doing much. But I've been saying this for quite a long time. I just don't know what is next for Roman post Bloodline. If Roman's not going away from movies after the Bloodline, it's really anybody's guess as to who he feuds with next. I'd have to see where things lie. If it were up to me, I'd have him just roll through all the way to Mania again and either go against Gunther or Cody and have one of those guys finish this damn story. Uh, Whether it's Cody not winning Royal Rumble but somehow making it, sure. I don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe Gunther is the guy. I think he still has some time to hold on to that IC title before losing it. Hopefully he surpasses Honky Tonk Man, but then Gunther can focus on like I said earlier, getting to the Final Four, getting the Royal Rumble victory. I don't see why he couldn't. So that's one of my early picks. So that's where I would do if because I don't think the Bloodline storyline's coming to an end at SummerSlam. I think we have a long time still. Um, I could be wrong, but I just think that they really could pad this thing out longer. So Ask Juice, hashtag Ask Juice. Will Cody finish the story, and if so, when? Well, I have a question to that question. Do we know why Brock Lesnar attacked Cody Rhodes after WrestleMania? I have an answer to that question. To the question, no. But I do think Cody will finish the story. I'm not sure if Roman's the guy he has to defeat. I don't know if Cody's the guy to defeat Roman at all. I don't know if Roman gets defeated by someone. I think Cody could do it. I don't know if it's at Mania, but I still think he could be the guy to do it. But like I said, I think Gunther probably more apt to do it. Not many more guys left. I don't know. So with that in that regard, I think Cody could finish the story. I don't think finishing the story is winning this world heavyweight title that Seth has either, though. And like I mentioned, Cody Brock 3, the rubber match, potentially is the next in line for a title. What title is that? we'll go around and around. I don't know what Cody's story looks like after SummerSlam. Let's just get to SummerSlam and see what's happening. I just don't have a lot of faith that the quote finish the story thing. Like, I think a lot of us can be in agreement that Cody should have finished the story, defeated Roman at Mania. Good night and good luck, and we move on. And Roman could have been in another program, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I've enjoyed the break up, break down, and demoralization of the bloodline since then. I've really enjoyed that. I like the resurgence of Jey Uso. Like I said, I think Rikishi still probably has a shot to come in at some point. And I can't even believe I'm about to say this. Purely because of the number, I am going to give up until WrestleMania 40 for The Rock to interfere in this bloodline storyline. After WrestleMania 40, that's it. I have no more hope for The Rock coming in ever to WWE, especially not in the bloodline. I'm putting it out there right now. I'm so done having false hope that really was never even given to us. No one's ever made any sort of note of, oh, well, The Rock could be coming out. You never know. But it's like, this is the storyline that was made for The Rock. And if he's not a part of it by WrestleMania 40, which is a landmark event for the company, that's probably it. So that's where I stand on that. I don't know if I've answered this before, but I will answer it now. Should AEW stop going to Vegas for Double or Nothing and Chicago for All Out every year? I say no. I like Double or Nothing being in Vegas because Halloween Havoc, after, what was it? 94 and 95 were in Detroit, and then 96, I think until the end, were in the MGM Grand. So I like the MGM Grand hosting a show every year. And I think Double or Nothing's perfect for that with the chips and gambling. I love that. And I don't have a problem with All Out being in Chicago most years. It is just, if you do that, you have to stop going to Chicago for like every other quarterly big Dynamite or this or that or CM Punk's coming back. And it's been so diluted in Chicago. Now, look, it's a great crowd and they bring it every damn time. But I think to diversify, I'll tell you this. You watched the Grand Slam the last couple years at Arthur Ashe. You saw the Canadian crowd for Forbidden Door. When you see the crowd at Wembley for All in August, that should tell you why AEW should not just, oh, well, we're stopping going to Chicago for All Out. Try to go to other cities that don't get AEW more often. I have been so not surprised, but so intrigued, entertained, enthralled, pleased, satisfied, happy about every single international PLE that WWE has put on since last September when the Triple H regime really began. Clash at the Castle, right? The Saudi shows, Money in the Bank in London, Puerto Rico for Backlash, Montreal for Chamber. They were stellar, stellar shows. Amazing crowds that don't see WWE that often. There's a reason Cena came out in London for Money in the Bank and said, "Who wants WrestleMania here?" They're probably going to do it within the next 2 years. It might already be penned in next year. or pending for the following year, just in general. That should tell you something. And I think it's obvious AEW realizes that. They're going to go across the pond. They're going to be in Wembley. It's going to be a big deal. And I think you will see, because here's something that I used to notice, and I think probably other people have gotten a hold of it as time has gone on. If you watched Impact at the Impact Zone, and even some of the states that they would branch out to, St. Louis and Boston, they did for some shows, and I think they did Nashville for some Slammiversaries. When they went overseas for tapings, the crowds were unglued. They were fantastic to watch because, again, they don't get these shows. So I feel like if you're AEW, I know that Wembley's the first one. You want to get this one done. When you see how important this show is going to be to the fans in Wembley, when you see the spectacle that is Wembley Stadium for All In, that and it is, I'm sure it's already in the mind of Tony Khan and the reps at AEW. But they should all look in the mirror and say, we need to really, really think about broadening even more of our horizons. We already do the New Japan thing. We've done Canada finally. Let's explore more spots in the United States. Let's explore going to the UK more. Let's go to Australia. Let's go to these spots that don't get AEW. And now AEW's only been around for 4 years. I get it. This is their trial run, and they're going for 70,000 plus. There's so much on the table internationally for WWE and AEW because the fans don't get it as much as we do here in North America and even in Canada. So I think All Out should be, in Chicago or flexed every other year to Chicago. I think Double or Nothing should stay in Vegas for the near future. I love it. It makes sense with the gambling and the poker chips and all that. It's perfect. I really love that event. But All Out probably could stay in Chicago and I'd be fine with it. But you gotta maybe go to Chicago one other time during the year. Like for All Out, you could do Dynamite and Collision and Rant. You could do every show there for that weekend. That's great. Maybe one other time, some other time in the year, you do Chicago for a Dynamite and Collision. You run them back to back, or you do the United Center maybe. But that should be it. Maybe 2 visits a year, even if you have 3 to 4 shows each time. It gets so diluted and no one really gets to see it. And I think once you go to Wembley, you see how many fans are really interested. You're gonna want to take it further. So great question there. I think that was Josh Cross. So let's get into a Matt Presto question. Shout out Matt Presto. Regarding LA Knight, he says, what are your thoughts on Triple H trying to quell some of the fans on WWE not really getting or WWE fans not getting the satisfaction about LA Knight, not winning Money in the Bank? And I mean, not saying he was super over to where he would have won the Royal Rumble, but he was in the Pitch Black match, so what are you going to do there? But pretty much saying, good things are coming, and it's not a guarantee per se, but Triple H kind of saying, hey, be patient. We know, we see the crowds. It's not a, you know, accident. And he's getting the time. We'll see what goes on at SummerSlam if he has a big match. We'll see what happens when the crowd goes nuts for him, which I'm sure they will in Detroit. So hopefully he'll get a shot going forward. And Matt also points out, does it strike you as very similar to the Cody build? Also, the slow burn of Cody. No, because Cody's was plotted. Cody came in, I think, immediately and did this 3-match trilogy with Seth. Now, him being hurt caused, I'm sure, the other plans to be derailed, but they still found a way to get him to the Rumble, but not win the title. So the adversity now was ramped up. Now he gets his 3rd match with Brock. So that will be more adversity that he's overcoming. And I think that he'll eventually get, like I said earlier, hopefully to finish the story, but I have little faith. Um, but I don't think LA Knight's in that realm. I think LA Knight has gotten really over really quick, quicker than maybe WWE thought he could or wanted to believe. And now they might not know what to do with him, but I think over time, when the crowds get hotter and hotter, I think they were definitely more receptive to giving him that push. And I'll mention it one more time. If he's in that Royal Rumble, people are going to be clamoring for him to win that thing. So give me LA Knight in the last four of the Rumble. Maybe he could win it. Because after that, you got Chamber, maybe. Maybe he could sneak a win for a number one contender. I don't know what, but uh, if LA Knight can maybe win a U.S. title at SummerSlam, take that for a ride for a while. I think Triple H he knows what he's doing. I think he knows an end goal. I think he knows the fans are clamoring for a major overstar to finally get rewarded for the fans believing in them organically. So hopefully they do that with LA Knight. I'd love to see him win a world title. I think he absolutely could really take it and give a solid 6 month run uh, where he is over the top. He's charismatic as hell. Of course, he takes from the best, but who really hasn't taken from the best as inspiration going forward? Because you look at it this way: people say, "Oh, LA Knight is taking from The Rock." He is. Oh, he's stealing or molding hell yeah and what into one yeah catchphrase. He's stealing from Austin too. Sure is. But you know what also is a good point? I'm 30. A lot of the fans right now on the internet are older, probably 25 plus. We grew up on Steve Austin and The Rock. If you were born in 2000, you didn't grow up with Rock or Cena or Rock or Austin. You grew up with John Cena. You grew up with The Undertaker still, Triple H to an extent, but the CM Punks and the Seth Rollins and these younger guys, Roman, the younger guys. So the younger fans probably outside of looking up on the network or on Peacock probably don't know as much of The Rock and Stone Cold as we older fans probably do. So to older fans, of course he's taking and ripping off some of those guys, or not as much ripping off as he's molding his own way of doing his not impersonation, but his own idea, his own invention of what those guys meant to him and how he could make it turn it into his own. So if the younger fans aren't really that familiar with Rock or Stone Cold to that degree where they saw him every week and know how pivotal they were and what their catchphrases meant then and the staying power of that, they're going to see LA Knight and just think, man, this guy's really exciting. He's got a really cool catchphrase. I really like him. And that's going to be it. They're going to think that he is like The Rock or like Stone Cold. He's not ripping him off. So I think it's more of an homage, and I think younger fans are seeing that, and that's why LA Knight's over as much as he is. So hopefully that answered that question. I've got a couple more, but I'm going to hold off on two of them because they're really more long form, and I could save them for another Ask Juice as we top out here in the 43-minute mark. But I will tackle this last one. Near and dear to my heart, Josh Cross asked this. Do you prefer the late 90s, early 2000s Burger King? Now, they weren't chicken nuggets back then. They were the chicken tenders or the modern ones. Now, I'm just going to be as quick and concise as I possibly could be. I was a WCW guy, WCW kid, WCW family. I was a Nickelodeon kid, not a Disney kid. I was a Burger King kid, not a McDonald's kid. Now, grew up a little bit, and now I like both, of course. The Chicken McNugget is probably one of the greatest fast food innovations of the time. Staying power of up now 40 years. But late 90s, early 2000s, the Burger King chicken tenders, they call them tenders, but they were nuggets, of course. But they had a little bit different of a texture. They were a little softer, but they were in the shape of stars at one point. and they were so damn good. I could imagine it. And they took them out for a bit. I remember the invention of the chicken fries, which initially I thought were a combination of chicken and French fry into one insanity creation. Thank God I was wrong, and it was just fry-shaped pieces of chicken. Loved chicken fries, especially now that they're back. But then Burger King relaunched chicken nuggets, and they're practically the same, although a little lesser than McDonald's. And they're a lot cheaper, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing. But the star-shaped chicken tenders from Burger King from the late 90s. I had birthday parties at Burger King. I had so many crowns from Burger King, so many toys from Burger King. I had those chicken tenders all the time. Now, I will say, they are not my favorite Burger King menu item. That goes to the Italian original chicken sandwich that has been around since 91. Came back and lost it, came back and lost it, came back for a moment and hadn't been around for 10 plus years. Came back the last 2 years. It's my favorite fast food item of all time. But as for those chicken tenders, man, those were really, really the top. So can't go wrong with a little good fast food now and again, I tell you. And to quote Seth from Seinfeld when he worked at Kenny Rogers Roasters, not fast food, good food quickly. So I'll leave it at that. Appreciate all the Ask Juice questions this week. I'm sure I will get more next week. But we'll also have some, SmackDown and Raw to discuss. We'll have some results from Collision with the Owen Hart tournament. We will also have the results of Blood and Guts, its third incarnation of the AEW War Games style match. Looking forward to what happens in that. Maybe some more on the MJF Adam Cole of it all. But one thing can be sure, I, Juice Springsteen, will be back behind this microphone next week for, I think, episode 30 of the Juice Box. So, little Barry Horowitz pat on the back for ya boy. Doing this show solo. Sometimes I do predictions with some guests. Sometimes I do triple threat theater. But a lot of the times it's just me, my microphone, and my laptop. So, thanks once again for listening to this show. Love every single one of you that does. Really means a lot. If you can go to iTunes, rate this thing 5 stars. Drop a review if you can. Even if it's a negative review, please throw 5 stars. It really helps. As always, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, juicysteen.podbean.com, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and last but not least, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Love discussing and bantering with everybody. Live tweeting Raw, sometimes live tweeting SmackDown, always live tweeting Dynamites and PLEs and pay-per-views. So, it's been the Juice Box. I'm Juice Springsteen. Hope you guys enjoy a lot of wrestling this weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week for episode 30 of the Juice Box.
That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.